Lil Meech seemed destined to dominate the spotlight the moment 50 Cent took him under his wing. After all, rising from anonymity to headlining a major TV series is no small feat. Yet in a matter of months, everything spiraled out of control. Alleged betrayals, murky rumors, and whispered accusations that made everyone question where his true loyalties lie. How did a young star with unlimited potential find himself on the brink of losing it all? Let's unravel this tangled story piece by piece. Lil Meech's leap into fame happened almost overnight. Before anyone knew his name, he was simply the son of the infamous Big Meech, an underworld figure who had long fascinated the media. He could have floated under the radar as just another celebrity offspring with a notorious father, but fate had different plans. Fate, in this case, arrived in the form of Curtis 50 Cent Jackson. Recognizing a unique opportunity, 50 Cent brought Lil Meech onto the set of a new series called BMF, loosely based on Big Meech's life and the organization he founded. Instead of casting an established actor, 50 took a risk. He believed in Lil Meech enough to pay for 2 years of acting lessons, offering him a chance few newcomers ever get. Industry insiders marveled at this decision. Why cast a complete rookie in a major role? But 50 Cent insisted that Lil Meech had something authentic about him, something that couldn't be faked. Things seemed to run smoothly at first. Lil Meech's portrayal of his own father's life won curiosity from fans, and he found himself among trusted circles in Hollywood. In interviews, he spoke of how grateful he was to 50. He often emphasized that no one else had believed in him like that, and it showed. His social media glowed with behind-the-scenes snapshots, brand new friendships with influential celebrities, and the lavish lifestyle that comes with a sudden surge in income. But that golden phase didn't last long. Whispered conversations hinted that Lil Meech might be spending faster than he was earning. Word on the street claimed he'd been handed a sizable paycheck. Some said up to $5 million, yet had almost nothing to show for it beyond designer shopping sprees and high-end jewelry. Critics on social media noticed a shift in his aura. The once humble newcomer who thanked 50 Cent at every turn began flexing extravagant outfits online, letting the world know he could drop 6 figures on a chain without blinking. These clues reached 50 Cent's ears. He wasn't just a mentor, he was also a businessman who detested the idea of unwise spending. He'd built his own empire on grit, hustle, and strategic moves. Now, seeing Lil Meech bragging about blowing cash on chrome hearts and Antarctica pendants felt like a ticking time bomb. Rumors began swirling about friction behind the scenes. If 50 had given Lil Meech a golden ticket, why was Meech squandering it? Did he not understand how fleeting opportunities in Hollywood could be? Even so, no one expected a fallout of the magnitude that would soon arrive. Lil Meech found himself standing in 2 lanes, one paved by 50 Cent and another shaped by his father, Big Meech, who had finally come home after years behind bars. That's when new allegations dropped, linking Big Meech's name to cooperation with authorities. Were these rumors true, or were they yet another ploy in rap's endless cycle of rivalries? Lil Meech tried to stay loyal to his dad while remaining grateful to 50, but as the world soon learned, loyalty in this industry is often a one-way street. By this point, fans started seeing warnings that Lil Meech was risking everything he'd worked for. Folks who admired him worried that this was the beginning of a long decline. Yet even they couldn't have predicted just how quickly everything would unravel. But this was only the beginning. The controversies around Big Meech had been simmering for years, even while he was serving time. Some claimed he had used third-party cooperation to negotiate a more favorable outcome in prison. Others insisted Big Meech would sooner oft himself than become an informant. These polarizing narratives collided head-on when 50 Cent, never known to mince words, began hinting that the official paperwork told a more damning tale. Online, 50 began dropping cryptic posts suggesting Big Meech's release might not have been straightforward. He teased that he had documents proving cooperation with individuals like Tammy Collins, a name that few outside certain circles recognized. Fans of BMF watched in disbelief. Was 50 exposing a hard truth, or was he simply using the situation as another power play? After all, the rap world is rife with alliances and betrayals, and 50 Cent had plenty of practice in using rumor as a weapon. Caught in the crossfire was Lil Meech. He was the public face of BMF, a role orchestrated by 50 himself. Now, his father had become the subject of a swirling scandal, and 50 was fueling those rumors. Worse, Lil Meech logged onto Instagram one day only to discover that 50 Cent had unfollowed him. It might sound petty, one click on social media, but in the industry, it was a colossal red flag. Why would the boss behind BMF suddenly sever digital ties with its star? In a panic, Lil Meech reached out to 50. Records of their conversation eventually leaked, revealing a frantic tone. Lil Meech claimed he had no personal affection for Rick Ross, one of 50's most vocal adversaries, and insisted that any rumor about Big Meech snitching was baseless. He wrote things like F Rose, trying to prove he wasn't crossing enemy lines. He spoke of loyalty, of taking the shirt off his back for 50. He clearly wanted to smooth over any misunderstanding. But as many have learned the hard way, once 50 Cent decides you're a liability, it's almost impossible to regain his favor. Nevertheless, Lil Meech tried. For a brief moment, fans thought the drama might subside, but then Big Meech himself stepped in, refuting the snitching accusations in a video that spread quickly online. He insisted he had never told on anyone in his life. He said he'd rather die than tarnish his name. This defiance, aimed directly at 50's insinuations, made people wonder, could Lil Meech and Big Meech stand united against a man who had financed their biggest success? Not surprisingly, 50 refused to back down. He doubled down on his claims, pointing to official documents and cryptic bits of evidence. The cloud of suspicion lingered, and fans were left choosing sides. Some believed 50 was unveiling the truth. Others believed he was orchestrating drama to stay in the headlines. Meanwhile, Lil Meech's every move was scrutinized. Would he publicly defend 50 or his father? As the snitch accusations intensified, Lil Meech attempted to float in neutral territory. Unfortunately, neutrality rarely works in hip-hop feuds. That was especially true once Rick Ross and Floyd Mayweather entered the story, and that twist changed the conversation entirely. No one doubted Rick Ross's longtime hostility with 50 Cent. Their rivalry was well documented. So when Big Meech stepped out of prison and swiftly connected with Rick Ross, cynics saw a convenient piece of theater. Ross took photos, dropped subtle jabs at 50, and implied he was closer to the Flannery family than anyone else. Floyd Mayweather, another heavyweight in 50's circle of conflicts, joined in. Suddenly, Lil Meech found himself surrounded by two of 50's biggest nemeses, and the internet went wild. Social media lit up with memes and conspiracies. People argued that Ross was only using Big Meech for clout, hoping to poke at 50 Cent and ride a wave of publicity. Others claimed Big Meech and his son simply wanted to connect with anyone who could support them after so many years behind bars and in the shadowy corners of the rap world. Whatever the motive, fans saw the optics loud and clear. Lil Meech, once 50's golden boy, was now posted up at Lucky Strike with Rick Ross and Floyd, making headlines for his betrayal. It didn't help that Lil Meech, perhaps buoyed by the hype, captioned a post with "real power," a statement that many interpreted as a direct dig at 50's brand of power plays. The response from 50 was savage. He implied Lil Meech's father was no better than someone who'd trade loyalty for a care package of chicken wings. To outsiders, the jabs felt petty, but in the context of rap beefs, and especially 50's track record, these small insults foreshadowed a serious rift. Still, Lil Meech seemed undeterred. He doubled down on his new alliances, snapping more photos with Ross and Mayweather, all while fans bombarded his accounts with claims that he was burning the very bridge that had put him in the spotlight. The controversy escalated so quickly that it overshadowed the initial reason these friendships formed. Were Big Meech and Rick Ross collaborating on something major, or was it purely a case of "the enemy of my enemy is my friend"? Not long after, unverified rumors spread that Lil Meech also had a falling out with Ross. The story went that Ross wasn't genuinely trying to help Big Meech at all. He was simply using the association to slap 50's name around for publicity. Once the hype began dying down, he vanished. Allegedly, Lil Meech felt exploited, as though his father's legacy had been leveraged for someone else's gain. He'd confronted Ross, only to get the cold shoulder. No public statement confirmed or denied this rumor, but the fan chatter reached a deafening level. Caught in the crosshairs, Lil Meech now looked more isolated than ever. He had effectively alienated 50 Cent by mingling with Ross and Mayweather, yet it didn't seem he had secured any genuine backing from them either. The fallout was immediate, with many fans insisting that Lil Meech had fumbled the greatest chance of his life. After all, 50 had not only cast him in a series, but had also mentored him and taught him how to survive in this cutthroat business. But those were only the surface-level dramas. The deeper issues ran far darker, involving alleged addictions and extravagant spending. Behind the flashy Instagram posts and glitzy nightclub appearances, Lil Meech's finances were allegedly in freefall. Though the exact figures remain under dispute, multiple sources whispered that he'd gone through $5 million in just 3 years. maybe less. That's a monumental sum by any standard, but the real shock lay in how casually it seemed to vanish. Top-tier brands, luxury cars, diamond-studded watches, lavish parties, and more custom clothes than one person could ever wear. Then came the rumors about whippets, canisters of nitrous oxide used recreationally for a brief, euphoric high. People in Lil Meech's circle noticed that he was often sluggish, or worse, unusually excitable. Some even claimed he arrived at the BMF set appearing dazed and confused. One story involved a weapons test scene where Lil Meech supposedly couldn't hold it together long enough to remain professional. Russell Hornsby, a veteran actor who had earned 50's respect, apparently saw the meltdown and reported his concerns. That's when 50 stepped in. Rather than publicly shame Lil Meech, he kept things discreet at first, pulling him aside and urging him to clean up his act. One rumor says 50 even footed the bill for a secret rehab program, telling Lil Meech that he needed to get serious if he wanted a real future in film and television. The fatherly tone from 50 was evident in the conversations insiders leaked. He wasn't just a producer, he was filling a role that Big Meech, for obvious reasons, hadn't been able to fill while incarcerated. This father-figure dynamic apparently caused friction. According to close associates, Big Meech wasn't thrilled that 50 was stepping into paternal territory. He wanted to guide his own son. But some said Big Meech's advice was more permissive, sometimes telling Lil Meech that blowing money is part of the lifestyle, or reminiscing about his own wild ways. That clashed with the 50's approach of hard discipline and wise investments. If Lil Meech was stuck between his dad's laid-back attitude and 50 Cent's pragmatic, business-minded outlook, it might explain the confusion in his decisions. Worse, rumors flew that Lil Meech had begun to expect handouts from other famous rappers. Tony Yayo, a close friend of 50's, mentioned an instance where Lil Meech hinted that certain artists, like Lil Baby, should give Big Meech a cut of their earnings out of respect. This came off as entitled, especially while Lil Meech himself was reportedly dropping 6 figures on a single chain and bragging about it to fans online. People began labeling him as naive, or simply too immature to handle the responsibilities that came with fame and fortune. Yet in Lil Meech's mind, perhaps he was just enjoying the fruits of his labor. Still new to the industry, he likely assumed the money flow would continue indefinitely, bolstered by 50's unwavering support. It wasn't until his tensions with 50 escalated and the rumored rehab stint came to light that it became clear just how unstable his position was. But the storm was only getting worse. Once the relationship with 50 Cent soured, Lil Meech's main pipeline to Hollywood success was severed. 50 still had BMF rolling, but industry chatter suggested Lil Meech's role might be reduced or even phased out. True or not, that speculation alone was enough to scare potential collaborators who viewed Lil Meech as a risk. Hollywood is brutal, especially for novices who rely on big connections to stay afloat. Around the same time, Rick Ross appeared to lose interest. For all the big talk and public photo ops, he didn't offer Lil Meech a new spotlight. Floyd Mayweather, too, seemed to vanish after the initial wave of social media buzz. To fans, it confirmed that these alliances were transactional. If Lil Meech wasn't beneficial to them anymore, they had no reason to keep him around. Lil Meech tried to do damage control. People claim he reached out to old friends in the music and film communities, hoping to find new projects or brand deals. But rumors of his inflated ego and irresponsible spending made many of them hesitant. Why invest in someone with a questionable reputation when there are countless other hungry talents willing to follow the rules, work hard, and keep their personal drama to a minimum? Even Big Meech, according to certain whispers, felt frustrated. He had envisioned a triumphant return with his son at the center of a groundbreaking TV series, possibly leveraging the public's fascination with the BMF story. Instead, he found the narrative overshadowed by 50's claims of betrayal and his son's alleged addiction issues. Some fans argue that Big Meech might share part of the blame, given the tension around how best to guide Lil Meech. Regardless, the father-son relationship was under immense strain, with public perceptions swirling about snitching documents and personal insecurities. All the while, fans on social media voiced one recurring sentiment: Lil Meech fumbled an opportunity most actors would kill for. Instead of investing in his future, setting up a stable foundation, or even helping his father financially, he blew his money on fleeting luxuries. Now that 50 had pulled away, it was uncertain whether any new platform would step up to elevate Lil Meech further, but the question remained: could he still salvage his career? Rumors suggest that Lil Meech is in panic mode. The lavish lifestyle he showcased on Instagram is allegedly unsustainable without the steady checks from BMF or 50 Cent's broader network. Some say he's been quietly pitching ideas to other producers, trying to secure a new project. Others mention that he's asked mutual friends to mediate, hoping 50 Cent might give him another shot. But if there's one thing 50 is famous for, it's holding on to grudges when he feels crossed. For fans who once cheered Lil Meech on, the disappointment is palpable. They remember the young, humble guy who credited 50 with changing his life. They recall the hopeful interviews, where Lil Meech sounded genuinely grateful to be living his dream. Now he's synonymous with cautionary tales about fame, money, and betrayal. Could 50 Cent ever forgive him? Observers point out that 50 has reconciled with certain people in the past, though typically after very public feuds. However, those situations rarely involved personal betrayals quite like this, where the star of one of his own shows fraternized with two of his biggest enemies in a very public way. Even if 50 wanted to patch things up, would the damage already be too extensive? There's also the question of Big Meech, who remains a legendary figure in certain communities. If Lil Meech makes amends with 50, what happens to his father? Does that sever their bond if Big Meech continues to believe 50 is attacking his legacy? The complicated triad of father, son, and mentor has turned into a messy web, and at this point, unraveling it might be beyond anyone's ability. Those closest to Lil Meech say he hasn't given up. He's reportedly taking small steps to regain trust, cutting down on the flashy spending, staying away from suspicious substances, and focusing on rebranding himself as a serious actor. But words alone won't convince an industry that runs on receipts. He'd need to show tangible evidence of change, like new roles, charitable work, or a more humble online presence. Yet the clock is ticking, and second chances are rare in this world. Lil Meech's story began as a symbol of redemption and promise. A young man, guided by 50 Cent, stepping into the spotlight to portray his father's saga and introduce a new generation to the BMF legacy. For a while, it felt like a fairy tale, but behind the scenes, ominous clouds gathered. Money slipped through his fingers, old feuds reignited, and alleged substance issues cast a long shadow over everything he'd built. Now he faces the cold reality of a game that shows no mercy. The alliances he formed for short-term gains are nowhere to be found, and the fatherly mentor who once took a chance on him has shut him out. Meanwhile, fans watch from the sidelines, speculating about whether Lil Meech can ever redeem himself. Will he manage to rebuild that golden bridge he torched with 50 Cent? Or is the gap between them too wide to mend? Can he step away from the drama, prove his worth, and earn a second shot at the success that once seemed guaranteed? Or has he already lost the greatest opportunity of his life, learning the brutal lesson that loyalty and foresight count more in this industry than the quick fame and easy money? In the end, that's the question only Lil Meech can answer. The lights may still be on in Hollywood, but they don't wait forever. One thing is certain, the clock is ticking, and every move he makes from here on will either seal his downfall or spark an unlikely comeback. Time will tell if he can rewrite his story, or if this has all been one long countdown to a crushing finale.